convey my sincere thanks to the Faculty of Built Environment and the organizer for giving me a chance to give some introduction in relation to the forum for today. In conjunction with accreditation visit by Lembaga Architect Malaysia to UNIMAS on the 4th until 7 August 2021, the Faculty of Built Environment proudly organized a forum with a theme Forward 2021. As we know, 2021 is the continuation of online event for all academic teaching and learning or other academic discourse. UNIMAS, as a new school of architecture in the region, visualize the upstream trend of globalization generated by the changes in the world. One way or another, we are already dominated by the digital progression together with the ever-changing tools and software that may change the way we do our daily routine, or it may affect our social well-being and, of course, our profession. Today, we discuss on the global digital issues on Asian School of Architecture and professional practices with our expert panels from selected architecture school, namely Professor T.S. Dr. Muhammad Hamdan bin Haji Ahmad from UTM, is one of the experts in the field of architecture. Associate Professor Architect Dr. Sharifah Fairuz Syed Fadil, also one of the expert and practicing architect from University Science Malaysia. And lastly, Associate Professor Dr. Lukman Ibrahim from UKM is one who has very thoroughly known for his writings. And the eloquent discussions will be moderated by our Dean, Faculty of Built Environment, Professor Architect Nurakmal Abdullah. With this forum, we anticipate that it will be the beginning of UNIMAS to open its door in the world of architecture. Without further ado, I pass the task to the moderator, Professor Architect Nurakmal. Please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof. Julaihi. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this afternoon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera daripada UNIMAS Kota Samarahan, Sarawak, dan juga a very good afternoon to all the colleagues, friends, and also students, and also participants into this forum. Alhamdulillah, we are able to do this, and then it's really great to see everybody here. So thank you very much for joining us this afternoon for our prestige event Forward. This is the Forward number 1. Okay, so as what Prof. Julaihi has actually mentioned just now, the pandemic situation actually has already caused various kind of movement control as well as travel restrictions that make everything's difficult, especially the knowledge exchange activities between academics and also students. So to carry out face-to-face, so discuss on current issues also relate to the field of architecture and also design must continue to be cultivated so that the level of scholarship among academics and students, especially at the Asian region and then also our nations, Malaysia, and also UNIMAS, especially because we are actually detached, almost detached from all the other Peninsular School of Architecture. So we hope that can continue without restrictions. So the current technology development actually need to be harnessed and at the same time discussed in facing the challenges faced in the current environment. So in this effort, that's why the UNIMAS Faculty of Built Environments Architecture Departments plan this session. So now the Forum and Webinar of Architecture. So we call it the Forward. So series number 1, 2021 online. So I'm so great to see everybody. I think among the participants, there are friends, there are colleagues, ex-colleagues, and there are students. And then I'm so grateful to meet everybody here, though it's actually so far away that we didn't touch. So thank God that we are far apart, we are able to meet online. And today we are very fortunate to have three well-known panels, as what Prof. Julaihi has actually mentioned just now. So, and then from the field of architecture and also the built environments. So I will introduce them one by one during their sessions later on. And then they will be discussing our intended objectives of this forum, which is actually the global digital issues, how it influenced the Asian School of Architecture, teaching and learning, and how it actually affected the practice in the industry. So in fact, the session is a bit jagged out, but before I actually go forward to the next panel, so I would like to actually a little bit of introduce our forum forward advisor just now, which is actually Prof. Julaihi, just to let everybody know. So Prof. Julaihi, without an introduction just now, so he is actually our current Deputy Dean Research and Commercializations in Faculty of Built Environment, so University Malaysia Sarawak. So for those who didn't know where is UNIMAS, we are actually at Kota Saramahan, at the states of Sarawak of Malaysia. So which is we are in the different islands of the peninsula. So anyway, so actually Prof. Julaihi was actually graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Architecture Studies and Bachelor of Architecture from Washington, and then Master of Architecture Community and Urban Design from Kansas, and PhD from Newcastle. So his specialization includes buildings design, especially commercial complexes and mixed development. So he also specialized in the field of community and urban design and housing studies. So he is also the founder and principal architects of Julaihi Wahid Architects, and then where the firm is located at the first floor sublot, where is actually River Edge Commercial Center, Jalan Datuk Petinggi, Haji Abdul Rahman Yaakob at Kuching. So actually, Prof. Julaihi, actually we are very, very fortunate to have our Prof. Julaihi as not only the advisor, but he is also the founder of the whole architecture departments in UNIMAS. So he was the one who initiated all the programs. So Alhamdulillah, so as the advisor, he has actually promoted UNIMAS into a different level. So that is that's our Prof. Julaihi, and Prof. Julaihi also was actually awarded the Tokoh Akademik Seni Bina from Lembaga Architect Malaysia in 2019. So it's actually a great opportunity to have Prof. Julaihi as our advisor. That is how we actually managed to get our forward today in-house. So thank you very much, Prof. Julaihi, and also the advisor. So I guess everybody is actually excited to listen to the panel's discussions on our topic today, which is actually global issues at the Asian University for the teaching and learnings, and also the professionals practice for School of Architecture. So, and then I would like to invite our next, the very first speakers for this session, which is actually my respected Sifu. So I have known him for some time, you know, so very great to have him here. So actually Professor Technologist Dr. Hamdan bin Haji Ahmad. So actually so he is actually respected Deputy Vice Chancellor of UTM University Technology Malaysia. I'm the alumni from University Technology Malaysia. So Professor Dr. Muhammad Hamdan also is the director of MIT UTM Malaysia Sustainable Cities Program. So he's also the former executive director of Institute Sultan Iskandar ISI of UTM, a wholly owned company of UTM with core businesses in research and consultancy focusing on urban habitats and sustainability. I have an opportunity to work with ISI in 2016. So that was a great experience. So Prof. Dr. Muhammad Hamdan's research area includes sustainable cities and architecture design, building climatology, smart cities, and architecture education. He's involved in many green developments and practice, including involvement in the Low Carbon Society of Iskandar Malaysia and Low Carbon Society 2030 for Kuala Lumpur Blueprint. Previously, he was part of the team that developed various public parks such as Hutan Bandar Johor Bahru, Taman Merdeka Johor Bahru, Linear Park of Johor Bahru, and Taman Tropika in UTM. So Professor Hamdan also is also a green building promoter and consultant affiliated to Green RE. So CASB Iskandar Malaysia, GBI. Furthermore, he's a prominent judge of Green Accord Initiative Award, GAIA, So he has developed 2 experimental houses within UTM campus itself, namely the Eco House and a hybrid energy house system funded by the Nikkei's corporate Japan. So, and then second is actually the door house for the poor. So ODOS itself an open IBS low-cost housing system funded by Ministry of Higher Education. So it is great to have actually such a very experienced and also experts in the field of built environment and especially in the housing. So without further ado, so I would like to actually invite Prof. Hamdan to share with us his view and perspective of the global digital issue on Asian School of Architecture and Professional Practice. So Prof. Hamdan, to you, thank you very much. Prof. Hamdan, are you there?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, to you now. Thank you very much.
All right, let me share first. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, I would like to thank UNIMAS, Faculty of Built Environment, for inviting me for the first time to be connected with School of Architecture, UNIMAS. I'm very grateful with the invitation. Basically, I wouldn't have any hesitation to accept because I believe this is one of the youngest School of Architecture, and I think they have done wonders so far. My great thanks to my good friend Prof. Julaihi, the Sifu of Forward, who has given the forward earlier of our session just now. And of course, a kind word from the moderator, the Dean, for giving such a claim to me, but I don't think I deserve that. But some of the things that she mentioned was the thing that I had done and still doing some of those green initiative currently. Okay. I would like to go back to what we are discussing today. I believe that this is the poster for our engagement today, and I was informed that I have 15 minutes for this session before I hand over to the moderator to invite the other 2 panelists, and then probably we will spend time on a Q&A session. The title of our webinar today or discussion or forum today is actually Global Digital Issues on Asian School of Architecture and Professional Practices. So I would like to have my point of views within the track. But let me start with the usual things. In the title, there is this keywords. The first one is digital technology, and the word is that is there an issue? Okay, or how do we actually embrace digital technology in School of Architecture, which is basically about education, as well as in the professional practices, which is deemed to be the industry, the architecture industry. Okay, as the context of our discussion today, we are looking at Malaysian architecture education, which to me, it is local, all right? So we have great numbers of Malaysian School of Architecture today from the public universities as well as the private institution, and I enjoy every minute of visiting all these schools of architecture. I've not been to UNIMAS. I'm looking forward to, but of course, like Nurakmal said, we are talking about, we are now in the pandemic times, even to go to Sarawak or Kuching to meet Prof. Julaihi now probably will take me 15 days, yeah, because 14 days I have to be quarantined. So that's how long it takes now. But because of the digital technology, we can actually meet, yeah, immediately. But of course, with the SOP of the pandemic, we still couldn't touch each other. So might as well we see each other, but instantaneously, rather than I have to spend 15 days traveling to Kuching. All right. Then we talk about the global situation, the global context, which I believe it is about the job market, yeah, for the graduates. And working and practicing, and definitely when you talk about global, or people always say local, yeah, you are talking about global and local industry with respect to architecture, employment or market, yeah. And then we are talking about, let me rearrange this. Okay. We are talking about, okay. This is that what we always believe when we wanted to have the School of Architecture. We always talk about the body of knowledge that involve the attributes, knowledge, skill required in the architectural, yeah, students, yeah. The designation architect is generally reserved by law or custom to a person who is professionally and academically qualified, yeah, and generally registered, licensed, certified to practice, okay? And these people will have to advocate fair and sustainable welfare, the cultural expression of society's habitat in terms of space, form, and historical context, okay? And this has to be built into our education system or curriculum, yeah? But my question is that, should it be standardized? And how much digital is expected? This is the question that we always is arguing about, yeah? In the School of Architecture, do we start teaching student computer or using computer in the first year? There's a lot of schools who believe they don't. They don't start with first year having computer in the studio. The question is that why? So these are the debates, the issues with respect to digital technology in teaching architecture. Yeah. And then when they graduate in actually in the industry. Right? So I pulled this down from the manual, from MAPS. So you see this expectation of LAM Part 1 graduate. These are the ability that they should have. And then the LAM Part 2. So if you look at my notes there, where is the digital? Yeah. So probably the digital is embedded. So if it is embedded, then what is the issue? And how do we embrace? How do we integrate this digital technology as part of teaching Part 1 and Part 2, right? And why they are important and when they should be discussed and taught. Okay, then I put down the APEC architects so that I can see so-called the regional expectation of practicing architecture. So again, it's all about competency. It's all about, yeah, being professional, ethical, and those other things. Yeah. Again, there is no such mention about digital technology. Yeah. So at the end of the day, it is still very far, or digital technology is only, yeah, a kind of things that we must, but it should not be written down. Those are questions that we can actually raise. This is my point of view digital technology in architectural schools. I put down there my suggestion, but quickly my opinions. Yeah. After visiting so many schools of architecture, becoming external examiners, recently I was in USM, the latest one. I would see that we have not moved. Yeah, we probably embrace digital technology, but we have not basically go beyond that. Maybe because of we are restricted. Okay, if you ask a lot of school architecture, there is always this, we have to abide. So abide, what it mean abide? Is abide mean minimum, or abide mean the only? So in my case, the abide should be the minimum standards, and you have to go beyond. So is digital part of that minimum standard, or it is actually taking the school beyond? So that is the discussion that we have to make. So go back here. This is my opinion after 33 years of teaching architecture, or it's not just teaching, actually, administering academic institution, and now taking charge of the whole campus in terms of development. I would see that the undergraduates, or what we normally call Bachelor of Science, there's also Bachelor of Housing, Building and Planning in USM, for example. So this first degree or Bachelor of Science, Land Part 1, is all about skill. It's all about skill. So it's the use of digital technology that allows students to draw and design, at the same time communicate. Yeah. So they can do all this digital fly through, simulation of how the performance of the buildings, but it is all about design, drawing, design, communicating. Yeah. Because I think within the 3 years, that is what is expected. Yeah. Within the duration that we have. So it is, to me, work for the market, the part 1. Okay, and when we move to postgraduate, which we call now MArch, okay, I slash it with PhD. But the most important thing is that I call it LAM Part 2++. Okay, the reason is that I'm trying to promote the idea that if you are talking about MArch, the graduate is expected to be able to analyze. Of course, we have to say that they should be able to think, analyze, research, innovate. So if you look at this, two very nicely divided, yeah, first degree and so-called the postgraduate, you are talking about we should be looking at them to create a market. So this digital technology should be able or allow them to create this new market. So should they become architect, or the architect plus plus, or the plus plus without the architect? So this is what the school has to look at, and actually start looking at whether digital technology is that possibility that we could actually embrace, but at the same time allow our graduate at master's level or postgraduate level to create new market. They could employ Andrea, of course, right? Andrea is here, why? So with that, I think probably I go into my 15 minutes, right? I put down the pause notes for digital technology because I know that we have Q&A after this, so I will not stop here. To me, digital technology is a tool for design and fabrication in architecture. It has to contribute to the way people experience the built environment. I'm not sure whether better or forced environment, right? Of course, at the same time, it allows us, like the Dean was mentioning earlier, it become a platform for us to communicate. Yeah. Before this, we are only living within our 4 walls in the studio. we are talking to the student probably presenting to the invited panel, but now the invited panel is actually the whole world. So this is where the digital platform has allowed us, and actually, surprise, the pandemic actually forced us to embrace this digital technology so that we are now questioning whether it is suitable, whether how do we actually look at skills, acquisitions from our graduates, whether they are becoming less or probably they are better. Yeah. So all these questions will have to be discussed further. And I would like to say, so what's the hype? Right? As educators myself, of course, I practice a little, but as educators that actually involved 33 years with UTM, I would say value the needs of this digital technology and then prioritize it. But at the same time, when you prioritize it, actually contextualize the use of this digital technology for your good, because there are other factors that you have to judge in order to actually acquire that technology or not. Some people say digital technology is cutting edge, but what is cutting edge? You know, so what is cutting edge to say Unimas? What is cutting edge to UTM? So it should be different. So there are some things that you can actually integrate, but able to actually use it, optimize it for education as well as for the industry. So colorful slide, just to put my point across. What digital are we talking about? Is it a tool or is it a business? Right? So I guess let's hear the next speaker. Thank you for now.
Yeah,
so
thank you.
The Dean. All right.
Yeah, thank you very much. Oh, I really respect Prof. Hamdan. It's actually on the dot of the 15 minutes. What a professional speaker he is. Thank you very much, Prof. Hamdan. So Prof. Hamdan talk about Malaysia's architecture educations and talk about global job markets for our graduates. So we are, you know, the academician is actually preparing future-ready graduates. So a future that is unknown. So and then Prof. Hamdan also talk about the required skill and knowledge of the digital for architecture graduates. So is there standardizations in the digital knowledge and expectations? Maybe some of you would like to suggest that on. So, and then I like his quotings on the last before the sessions. He talked about value the needs and prioritize the contextualize, and then contextualize the use of it. Prioritize and contextual the use of it. So this is some of the great points that Prof. Hamdan has shared with us. So if you have any questions to the panelists later on, we actually are going to have a Q&A sessions after the three speakers has actually conveyed the message, conveyed the perspective of the digital issues. So you can actually start typing it, your question in our chat room. So the secretariat will take care of it, and then we will actually convey to the panelists at the end of the sessions, of the speaker sessions, and then before we actually respond to all the question and answer later on by the panelists. So I guess that was actually very great sharing from Prof. Hamdan. So now we actually go to the second panelist. So the next panel of this afternoon session is actually Associate Professor, Architects, Dr. Sharifah Fairuz from University Science Malaysia. So and then a little brief introduction of Dr. Sharifah. So Associate Professor, Architect Dr. Sharifah Fairuz Syed Fadzli is actually has been with USM since 1995. Her research interests include environmental building performance, daylighting, thermal comfort, building modeling, and simulations. So she's a professional architect with Board of Architects in Malaysia and is an active member of several international and professional bodies like RIBA. She is a chartered member of RIBA, AIA, associate members of AIA, and CABI, fellow chartered engineers of CABI. So keen on green sustainable building, she's a certified green building index facilitator in Malaysia. And she has published and reviewed papers in several ISI journals, and her academic qualification are as such. So Bachelor of Science Architectural Studies and Master of Architecture at University of Nebraska, Lincoln, United States of America. And her PhD is actually at University of Wales, College of Cardiff, United Kingdom. So that is actually about Dr. Sharifah, a very experienced and a very experts in her field and in the field of architectures and also built environment. So without further ado, so please welcome Associate Professor Architect Dr. Sharifah Fairuz to the screen. So Dr. Sharifah, are you there? Can you hear me now? So over to you now. Thank you.
Okay, can everybody see my slide?
Yes, yes, we can see
clearly. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you, Prof. Nurakmal, for a very generous introduction about myself. And respected panels, Dr. Raja, also to my great friend, Prof. Julaihi, and also to all the audience, wherever you are. So I'm Dr. Sharifah. So this forum will be on the cutting edge, IR technology in architecture. Right, so in this short sharing session, I will go to three things. First, what is technology all about, what it is. And then the second one is the intention, the objective, the aims, why we use technology. And the third one is more towards our attitude, right? Attitude, and this will deal with the ethical part side of using technology. So technology as we know it, okay, it is the application of scientific knowledge for practical purposes. So there must be practical purpose why we must use technology in the industry, right? For example, in the computer industry, in architecture, and so on. The handphone, for example, the one I'm holding here, everybody has one. Technology is actually neutral in its character. Right? It is neither good or it is neither bad. It is actually the way we humans use it, which may make it good, bad, advantage or disadvantage, strong or weakness is actually up to us. So as humans, we are actually the masters of technology. We create technology, we develop technology because we are smart, right? And we should not be the slave of technology. So this one I will go on later on. So take, for example, I just give analogy. I always like to give analogy in my lectures. The analogy of a typical pen, for example, historically, you know, a pen years before Christ, they used sharp stones, sticks, bones to write. And then there is a feather dipped in ink, as you can see here. Oh, I haven't got my pointer. Just a moment. Okay, so dipped in ink. And then there is a fountain pen and ballpoint pen and so on. And now presently we have digital pen. Okay, technology then and now, of course, it is situational, it develops and it improves as the time come about. So it must have its purpose, the original purpose. For in the case of the pen, the purpose is to write, to draw, to get messages across. Okay, so this is the purpose of the pen, for example. So in a digital pen, as you can see here, the one on my left, right? The latest technology that I know, I may be backward also, is that you have something written with the pen in your handwriting, and voila, in your iPad, you can have the same thing written in text. So that is maybe the latest one. But however, having said that, you know, the pen, whichever era or situation we are in, still needs the use of the human hand. The human hand still needs to be there to use it, right? I don't know, maybe in the future, the pen works by itself and no need the human hand, I don't know. So with the pen is also the evolution of handwriting, it comes, right? If you see here on my right, the evolution of the handwriting in 1900, for example, very nice classical handwriting. And then to the 1960s, the baby boomers, me, I belong to the baby boomer generation. This is our kind of handwriting. And then to the Gen Y. And then now this is what the millennials handwriting is looking like. I know because I have been correcting papers from the first year, and this is the kind of handwriting I get nowadays, right? So it comes with the evolution of the handwriting as well. So it comes to the pen, okay? The purpose of the pen, intentionally or unintentionally, pens are being also developed for other purposes. For example, this one, pen daggers, right? Pen knives, pen pistol, pen lighter. So there have been purpose people make, to all kind of thing to deviate it from its original purpose, right? Using technology as well. So we go back to architecture, we forget about the pen, okay? This is the architecture as it was used to, probably in the 1900s. The technology then, this huge drafting table, how you have your drawings on board. You have to stand up because it's too big, right? And the T-square, and you have strings tying up your drawing, right? But look at the buildings that come. The buildings that come with this kind of drawing, architecture, technology. These buildings like maybe we have many in our country now, the colonial buildings, they still stand strong. They look beautiful, marvelous, elegant, right? So come the phrase, they don't make it the way they used to anymore, right? They don't make it the way they used to anymore. For example, if you buy bicycle now, after 2 weeks, it rosak already, okay? Compared to the relay bicycle that was used previously, is very good and strong. The watches, the shoes, right? Even though technology then is not so great, but the quality is there, quality. So this is, okay, I give you an example of the old architectural studio, architectural office without much technology. Okay, this is the studios now. So presently, so I take this chance also, maybe to tell Prof. J, we have got the space at below the library to convert it in our studio.
Yeah, what's that?
Yeah. Thank you. So our in-house architect, Zalena, PM, Dr. Mona, and Dr. Yat, A.R. Najib, have converted this library into our studio because architecture, we must have aura of design space, Our studios must have a nice character so that people in it will be motivated. So we have gallery space. This is the space before conversion. And we have got areas for eating, dining, and lectures, and living area, so on and so forth. So this is maybe the architecture studio presently. Future, I will go towards that later. So back to architecture, this is the architectural drawings you'll see without much technology, the use of the hand. Still, manual drafting. Is it fitting the purpose? Of course, you can still get your perspective, your interiors, your plan, your floor plan, the materials, and so on. Okay, but probably it takes time, it takes time, right? And this is the kind of rendering using manual, color pencil, watercolor, markers. You'll see that the manually rendered by hand comes with an aura of quality and character. For example, the time when we were in school, 1980s, late 1980s, for example, computers was AutoCAD release 8, not there yet. So we can see student A, for example, this is the quality of his rendering. Okay, student B, different one. Each student comes with his or her own character of presentation, of rendering. But now, this is the kind of drawings we see using CAD, right? Using CAD. Of course, it still fit the purpose. Remember, technology must have purpose. It comes with speed, innovation, automation. This kind of sophistication we cannot get previously. Okay, you can cut sections, anyone you want, you can turn this way, turn the other way, right? And these are the kinds of renderings we see students nowadays are doing. almost to perfection, precision, virtual reality, just like photograph image of rendering using computers. Fitting the purpose? Yes. Okay, so for IR in architecture, construction industry, we are talking about autonomous, prefab, modular, cloud, real-time collaboration, and all of this. Cutting edge. Cutting edge means it's really sharp, really sharp and precise. And sometimes it is called disruptive technology because this kind of technology are different from the conventional ones we are used to. So they disrupt. The contractors are not used to it. The old architects are still fighting to match it. Okay, we are not used to it. So when it comes something new, it becomes disruptive. For example, if we go to McDonald's now, it is disruptive for me. I cannot tell the person in charge, no, don't put salt in my fries because everything is digital now. There's no way I can tell I don't want any salt in my fries. And now a payment, no more cash, no more coins, everything is boost or QR code or whatever. Okay, so Malaysia also don't want to be left behind. We also have our strategic plan of construction for industry by CIDB Malaysia. Malaysia also want to not be left behind. However, having said that, comes to the attitude part. The attitude part. I'm saying this like this. Okay, this is my view. Okay, my view. We do not have to follow what everybody else is doing, right? For example, the building index. For example, building index. When LEED USA come out with LEED, UK with BREEAM, Australia Green Star, Singapore with Green Mark, Malaysia also come with GBI. And not only GBI, now we have many more. The JKR1, the many more green system. Take a look at Denmark, okay? Denmark and Copenhagen as the #1 greenest city in the world. They have the wind turbines, they have green parks, they have bicycles, they have so many things which make Copenhagen the greenest city. But does Denmark have its own green rating index? No, they don't. Probably because they feel that being green, being green is not paksa rela, it should be ikhlas, sincere, and it comes from the heart to save energy, save the environment, save the world, right? So doing it for willingly, not just to get it platinum or gold or certified and have the certificate put onto the walls to advertise. Okay, so that's why I feel we don't have to do what the Joneses are doing. The point is, at least for me, so I put here, I'm liable. You can embrace technology. Prof. Hamdan also said, yes, we embrace technology. Technology is superior. We can do many things, quality visuals, but we don't throw away past methods. Okay, pens, color pencils, markers don't throw. No harm mastering both. Let me tell you this. 2, dependence and technology will make you what? So I go to the next slide. Okay, I don't say this, okay? This is a research done by Wardinsky 2019. 15 signs that you are too dependent on technology. Number 1, you feel nothing can be done without the internet. You're not living the moment you record it, You lose track of time, you use calculators for simple calculations, blah, blah, blah. And look at number 11. Number 11, you have lost your creativity when you too much depend on technology. Okay, they have, of course, the paper has got explanations, right? You can look it up. They say that previously, when we baby boomers, we were growing up, we played with dolls, we played with Lego, Kawada, at the time it was called, we played with origami, we played with dolls, cut the dolls and create clothes for the dolls, right? But now kids, right, they just play with their iPad. They just play with the computer games and so on. They rely on technology and they have lost their creativity. In architecture, if you lose your creativity, what else is there? Okay, it's very dangerous. Okay, this is another article by Dixon. Must have technology for architects in 2017. Okay, that 2017, 4 years back. So these are the technologies Dixon say architects must have. Okay, so what are the systems? They are augmented reality, virtual reality, cloud, artificial intelligence, social was all this. Okay, so if Dixon is saying this, must we in Malaysia say, alamak, Dixon says that? We are saying what? We must agree with Dixon, we must have this, all this technology. I say no. Okay, this is, for example, virtual reality. Okay, of course, I'm not expert in this. I have no experience in this. Okay, you have to wear your goggles and you can see, simulate the walls, the spaces, go, you know, go from one space to the other. You can sit down, you can stand up, you can touch the surfaces. This is virtual reality. But virtual reality, for your information, is developed by the gaming industry, right? The gaming industry and the architecture borrowed it. So virtual reality, is it fit for purpose? Is architecture virtual or real? You ask me. Is architecture equivalent to fun, gaming, thrill? I don't know. And talking about business, Prof. Hamdan said, oh, it's business now, making money. Look at all the manufacturers of goggles now, right? Samsung, Oculus, Vive, Google. These are people making money, right? Architecture are starting to buy all these things now. Right, so this is again, augmented mixed reality, how they work, okay? And this is holograms. Hologram is another technology that we architects supposed to use also in the future, right? It is
Sorry, Dr. Sharifah.
Yeah, okay.
I'll have to interrupt you. So I give you the last minute to maybe.
Okay, hologram like this, you know? You may be doing presentation like this, okay? So this is a virtual fuso technology. I think it's good. You have 2D here and straight away they transfer to 3D. I like it. Okay, Roto, is our studio going to look like this? The cube, all right? What about ethics? Have we forgotten ethics? What about all kinds of technological effects to our health? Whose responsibility is this, right? And Stephen Hawking saying AI is likely to be the best thing to happen or the worst, right? Okay, so this one, okay. We certainly don't have to keep up with the Joneses, know what the other people are doing, referring to, of course, the advanced countries, you know. Who holds the benchmark for architecture? Exactly what Prof. Hamdan said, right? Does the US have it? No, maybe the benchmark, right? It's up to us to decide. Malaysian people, the culture of the people, the religious, social politics of our own country to decide. This is again the steering wheel, then, now, and future. Is it safe? Okay, this is the purpose of architecture. Right, the purpose of architecture also, Prof. Hamdan also said, we want knowledgeable, skillful, responsive to the built environment. This is the purpose of being in architecture as educator, practicing what? Right, and this is the part 2. So whatever is, refer back to the purpose. Use technology as it fits us to fulfill this purpose. Okay, last, by Klaus Schwab, he's saying that there has never been a time of greater promise with technology or greater peril with technology. Thank you very much. Wassalam.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Sharifah. I'm so sorry that I couldn't let you have more because I know it is a very interesting session. We wish we can have more time, but you see what Dr. Sharifah has shared with us is actually, she actually discussed on how technology has influenced the teaching and learnings in the era of industry revolutions of 4.0 and how technology and the digital things has affecting our thinking and where shall we go from here. So what Dr. Sharifah has saying that that we actually, maybe we actually have lost our creativity with the technology. So I think the Gen Y and the Gen Z in these participants may actually against it. So maybe we can discuss about it later on. So have we actually lost our creativity with the technology? So I guess I agree a lot on Dr. Sharifah's statements on what kind of world do we want for ourselves, that those who love and future society. So what do we want to create in the architectural field, and then what kind of educations that we are moving to, like Prof. Hamdan said, standardizations, and then Dr. Sharifah says, you know, what the future of our architecture educations and the graduates we're going to create, you know, from the School of Architecture. So a lot more key points, a lot of very interesting points that we can talk about. So, and then Dr. Sharifah said, embrace technology and remember humanity in us. So those are some of the key points that Dr. Sharifah has shared with us. Really a very, very good session. So I hope we can have more. So, but it's still okay. So, and then we can actually discuss about it later on, especially when Dr. Sharifah talked about the characteristic of us, which is the signature of an individual touch. So which is actually us, the architect. So for students, for participants, so find the signatures of yourself, like what being advised by Dr. Sharifah. So thank you very much, Dr. Sharifah. So indeed a very, very good session. So actually, so I hope we can actually talk more about that. But because I myself know, so we are actually moving into digital technology. So it's actually a very great session from you. So I hope we can actually have more session again later on, so during the Q&A. So we are now 10 minutes to 3 o'clock. So we are not far from our schedule. So I would like to introduce the next speakers, which is actually Associate Professor Dr. Lokman Ibrahim, my ex-colleagues from UKM. So Associate Professor Dr. Lokman Ibrahim is actually lecturer and previously the chairman of the Department of Architecture and Built Environment in University Kebangsaan Malaysia. So he holds a Doctor of Philosophy and Master of Philosophy in Architecture from the University of Sydney, New South Wales, Australia, and a Bachelor of Architecture and a Bachelor of Environmental Design from the University of Tasmania, Australia. So he's actually expert in the building, their lighting, and architectural theory. So like what some of you may know, so Dr. Nick is actually very good in a lot of writing. He has been publishing a lot of papers, especially on the day lightings and the artificial lighting. So without further ado, and not to delay his session, so let us welcome Associate Professor Dr. Nick to the screen and share with us on his perspective of the global digital issue and the teaching and learning of architecture education that being affected. So Dr. Nick, I'll pass the screen to you now. Thank you, Dr. Nick. Welcome to this session, Dr. Nick. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Nurakmal. I will share my screen now. Can everyone see it?
Yes, we can see you well, Dr. Nick. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So that's the title basically. I will talk about this the pandemic and the effect on the digital technologies in architecture. I have to say one thing is that I'm not an expert in digital technologies in architecture. Far from that. And I think Prof. Ahmad has mentioned actually about my specialization. So it's quite a new thing to me, this digital technologies. And I have to say that I only start teaching online because of this pandemic. And my experience in digital online teaching is very new. So so I would try to it's what I'm going to say is basically just a commentary of my own experience in online teaching, and also to have some overview of the digital technologies available nowadays in architecture. So, okay, so actually the same scenario everywhere. I think the pandemic have actually make the digital or online teaching essential in architecture. Just imagine if we don't have internet, we might not be able to carry on with our education activities at the universities or schools. And as we know, during the first MCO last year, all education activities in schools, universities, not only architecture, I mean, in other fields as well, has stopped the activities because at that time we haven't planned to carry out all those activities online, and we don't have experience. But now I think we're getting more familiar with this online teaching, and it becomes a new normal in architecture education. That we start using this and exploring this online means to teach. But actually, it's still very much restricted to what we have actually. So in the next slide, I'm just showing what sort of activities that actually happen online. We have studio, lecture, talks, discussion, presentation, reviews, consultation, seminar, meeting, everything online. And in some aspect, it works well. We haven't received a lot of complaints, I think, especially in studio, I would say. I think everybody would agree. We have great difficulties when it comes to studio because our studio teaching is normally very much grounded on physical, physical face-to-face teaching and learning. So when it comes to online teaching, we encounter very great difficulties. So some of the issues I would like to highlight, I think everybody who teach, I think would share the same experience or challenges in carrying out the online teaching, such as difficulties in communication and in executing, for the student to execute the project. And there's also the, we can observe the lack of manual design drawing, especially in lower year students, because we didn't manage to train them properly using manual skills. And that is actually something that Dr. Sharifah also highlighted just now. That's something that we missed. And there is the lack of internet access to that occur in some area. It depends on where the student stay. And we also encounter the lack of attention from the student and also motivation. And there's also disturbances and also the issue of working. The student have to work in isolation without peer helps, a direct peer helps, and also lecture, and also helps from their lectures. So basically, I think that's the issue. The main issue is the challenges in transitioning from the physical design studio to digital or online design studio, which I think we haven't come up very well, because people keep complaining about this shortcoming. But there is also some question that I would like to raise for the sake of discussion in this webinar. Most of the time we complain about these limitations of digital technologies that, compared to what we used to have face-to-face teaching and learning. And is it really the faults of those digital technologies because that we have such limitations that we are facing now, or is that because we have not yet venturing into a more up-to-date, or what Dr. Sharifah termed as cutting edge or digital technologies in architecture? So I have done some review on the digital technologies available out there. Again, I have to say that I'm not an expert. So what I'm going to say is actually at the surface, but just to highlight the potentials of the digital technologies available, and Dr. Sharifah had highlighted a number of it just now, and I will try to communicate a few more. such as BIM, building information modeling that I think we used to hear about it. I think Prof. Ahmad also been, promoting this, I would say. Yes, and also the IoT, Internet of Things in architecture, cloud computing, reality capture technology, AR and VR in architecture and construction. And we could say also that the pandemic has also accelerated the adoption of these digital technologies in the industries, especially in architecture. So it started, the pandemic has caused the digital construction to become a new normal. So for those who has pursued this technology right now, and some interruption. Okay, thank you very much. I thought there's a question for me. But it's not yet.
Sorry for the interruption. Dr. Nick, please proceed. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, okay, it's okay.
Oh, it's digital world.
It's a digital world, yes. We can stop anyone from saying what they want to say. Okay, and okay, I would go one by one. I mean, I think we have known more or less about BIM. This is a tool that actually can ease the management of the building projects, from schematic up to the construction, and also afterwards during the occupancy. So there's so many things that we can benefit from BIM. We can actually study the services, the environmental system, and communicate it through BIM. And there's actually the software related, and that's what I'm showing now is actually the top 5 BIM software, and some of it we might have already used it in our school, architecture school or offices, such as AutoCAD, SketchUp. And I think our students are quite excellent in it. But of course, we haven't got every one of it. I mean, all of this. For instance, we are still trying to get Revit for my school, and we have the software, but still in a limited version. And I think that is also an issue for most of the architecture school, because we work on a very limited budget. We cannot have all the necessary digital technologies that we wish. And we know that in 2016, UK has mandated BIM for the publicly funded projects, and also Germany is mandating it, the use of BIM in all transportation projects in 2020. So we're not sure about our country, so because we are still struggling, I think very much to acquire the skills, the skills and knowledge in this field. And there is also cloud computing in architecture, and this also has its advantage for BIM, because it allows information about the project to be accessed by anyone at any location, because you can access the information about the project with using your handphone, your tab. You don't even you don't have to rely on. You don't have to bring your papers. You don't have to bring your PC. You can. Everyone can access the information about the project, and there is also digital twin, which actually allows us to see the virtual representation of the building that we have created in the real world. Because, for example, we can see our building during construction, for example, by means of this digital twin. We don't have to visit the site, and especially during this pandemic time, it will be very convenient, I would say, because we can see the actual progress of the work through this digital twin. And digital twin also has been enabled by these geotechnologies, cameras, a drone, and cloud. Point cloud, for example, has actually, with this tool, you can actually compile information on the ground and also from satellite to compose the building in real time. So basically, the architect and other professionals in engineering or in construction can actually view the process of construction, without having actually to visit the site. Of course, I mean, it's always good. It's always nice to have a site visit. You can see it in the actual things happening, but actually you can keep track of what actually been progressing on site through this digital means. And also we have this virtual reality. I would love to wear this, but we don't have the budget to buy it, I would say. I think that is one of the limitations, because this is a more immersive technology that allows us to appreciate the building during the design, and even during the construction work. And like what Dr. Sharifah has mentioned before, this virtual reality, the topmost usage is actually in the gaming. So we might need to be alert about the suitability of this tool in architecture. But from a survey by HTC Vive, I think that they are actually the developer of this virtual reality gadgets. So according to them, architecture is among the top 5 priority in their list, because the architecture field, the AEC especially, is buying it. It's very interested in this technology. And there is also 3D printing, which is being made possible by digital technologies. We can actually digital print our building. To do 3D print our building on site. Although I have to admit that it's still very hard for us to convince the university to buy this, 3D printer for our school, isn't it, Prof. Hamdan? So this is actually the technologies, the digital technologies that are available in the market nowadays, right? But maybe, I think it's not maybe, actually most of it are still not available. It's still not widely available in our countries. And of course, there are challenges like what Dr. Sharifah mentioned just now, and also Prof. Ahmad mentioned as well. There is the lack of collaboration between the professionals, whether to use or to buy this softwares and facilities. And there is also the lack of awareness. There have been, I think, papers about that survey on the awareness of, for example, BEAM in Malaysia. And I think most of them reported that the awareness are still quite low, as well as the knowledge and skills in the technologies. And of course, there is this big problem as well, which is actually the cost of the tools. So in order to have these digital technologies, of course, you have to spend more. You have to invest more to make them available. So those are actually the issues that we're facing at this current moment. And I don't know when would this actually would be possible for our schools to benefit. But I'm confident that once these technologies are available, it would actually change the pedagogy of architectural education somehow, to some extent, I would say. So the way that we teach architecture students might as well change with the availabilities of these digital technologies one day, perhaps, when when we are more ready to embrace it. So that's basically my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Nick. Indeed, it's actually exactly on the dot of 15 minutes. I thank everybody for that. So, okay, Dr. Nick, so no worries of the digital things and all those things. Actually, I'm pretty much also a blackboard and chalk person. So I have to get into digital teaching and learning. So I'm so fortunate we have the whole family of the Faculty of Built Environment in UNIMA. So they're helping me a lot. I'm a school of thoughts person. So digital things was never in my book, but I actually managed to do so, alhamdulillah. So, and then we managed to teach students online, and then we are also fortunate the Lembaga Architect Malaysia is actually helping us, giving all the categories, criteria for our architecture education. So our students are back in campus, so we actually can teach them face to face, even though halfway we actually have to go hybrid. So indeed, Dr. Nick has actually shared with us one very, very interesting session. So we talk about a lot of questions is being asked to ourselves, and then Dr. Nick is actually discussed about the worries of the academicians. So how do we actually talk about the challenges in the teaching or learning of architecture education, especially in this pandemic time? So nobody ever expect we're gonna face this kind of challenges. So, and then teaching online architecture education. When we were in UNIMAS, when things coming, everybody was like, we look at you, I look at me. So it's really, really a challenges that we actually talk about. So when it comes to digital technology, yes, like Dr. Sharifah have actually shared with us, Prof. Hamdan already shared with us. So Dr. Nick also mentions, are we not yet venturing into digital technology? Are we not yet enough venturing into technology? So of course, there are still more. So how much more we have to get into it, because the digital technology is actually keep on moving forwards. So people are talking about 5.0, we are just started 4.0. So the 9.0 is actually coming up. So I recently learned about the 9 dimension. We were talking about 3D, 4D, and then now it's actually 9D. So a lot of this is moving forward. So it is actually another challenges for us as an academician. So how much more software we have to buy, how much more apps we have to install in our phone, and how much more is enough when it comes to education. Of course, like what Dr. Nick said, budget is always one of the constraints for teaching and learning. So especially we are in the public university. So these are some of the questions we can discuss during our question and answer session. So we talk about 3D printer. Dr. Nick talked about 3D printer. So a building. So is it good or bad? So I don't know. So if there is a 3D printed house, will you want to stay in it? So I'm not sure yet. So far, I know they are, but so far I have not heard about people staying in the 3D printed houses. So yet that is actually something that you as a student, and then for us as an academician, how shall we convince our people that actually we can safely live in the 3D printing? So no worry yet. So we do not have the 3D printer yet. So it's okay. So that should be fine. So I think once these things continue, hopefully the Mohd may want to consider to let us buy a big 3D printer. So those are some of the points that Dr. Nick has actually mentioned. And then another one is actually the virtual reality. It is very difficult, but I hope that after this, when we actually have these sessions of the forum, so we hope if we can collaborate and work together, maybe one specialized virtual reality lab for architecture educations, maybe, why not? So we can actually, let's do the collaboration so that we can actually create one specialized virtual reality room in one UA. So for the teaching and learning, so how exciting that will be. So we can actually talk about that in the other session. So I think, so we have already ended the session for all the panels. So we can actually move to the next session, which is actually the Q&A session. So we want to discuss about how global digital issues on Asian School of Architecture and Professional practice has actually come to us now at this difficult time of the pandemic. So the panelists, are you ready for the sessions? Because we do have a few questions in the chat room now. So maybe I will actually read out the session, read out the questions. Then the panelists, you can choose to answer yourself, or I can actually, you can choose to answer if you find that it's actually comfortable to you. Not, I will actually, maybe I will suggest some panelists that can answer this. So the very first two questions, is actually come from, we have architect Adranta, architect Anne, so a good friend, and then we were in the PAN itself as a council member before last year. Architect Anne is actually a very, very enthusiastic in architecture education. So I know him very well. So he said, Assalam, I have two questions to share to the panelists. Number one, globally in architecture and its allied disciplines, what are the top three challenges faced that has the propensity to be resolved through cutting-edge technology? We are talking about cutting-edge technology here, Architect Adranta. So, and then let me finish Architect An's second questions before I pass it to the panelists to answer that. In the building industry within the Malaysia context, were cutting-edge technology adopted? If yes, how? And to what extent? If not, why is there limited adoptions of technology? Wow. So Architect Anne is asking about the cutting edge technology. How do we cut the edge? How can we maintain the edge to be cut well? So maybe to the panelists, maybe I will get Prof. Hamdan. You want to answer these two questions first, or you want to answer either one of the questions first? Prof. Hamdan, thank you very much.
I'll try number one. Okay. The question is very interesting. I think I would say that the three things is actually communication. Then number two is buildability. And number three is sustainability. And all these three, interestingly enough, about working together. And I believe that the digital technology allow these three things to happen because it can actually bring different professions together under one platform or digital platform. And this could actually be accelerated, compared to before. So the use of digital technology for this concerted effort, to actually, I think Prof. Sharifah was talking about one of the factors that we must look into is sustainability. Even though Denmark lost to UK, Denmark lost to England last night, but they still be probably one of the best in terms of keeping the environment. And the other thing is actually about buildability. So we always look at it as something that someone has to solve on the side. But at the end of the day, buildability is very important to communicate, say, to the contractors on the side, right? So this aspect of buildability involves not just an architect, an engineer, M&E, everyone. So there is this opportunity of using digital technology to basically look at these factors before you embark and actually put things on the side. And these two, we're talking about good communication, and digital technology should be used for this communication purposes. So that's my my answer. So hopefully the answer is actually acceptable by Andreata.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof. Hamdan. And you want to on your video so that we can see you?
He still has not cut his hair, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe Dr. Sharifah, you want to add some more? So actually, Prof Anda kata actually digital technology sebenarnya allow us to come together in actually different kind of platforms, kind of thing. So Dr. Sharifah, maybe you want to respond to Architect Anne's questions also.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So what are the challenges? Usually, digital technology, when it finally came to our beloved home country, Malaysia, there is a lag. Macam Dr. Nick dah kata tadi, BIM, it started in the US tahun bila, okay, and it come to Malaysia tahun bila. There is a lag. Always there is a difference lah. And then when we are just groping with BIM, okay, over there, this is already like Dr. Nick said, there's already the digital twin, something different. So technology in the advanced country is at a very, very fast rate. And it come to us, we are not ready. We are not ready. That is, I think, the biggest challenge, right? It is too fast. We have been very, very comfortable with the old conventional methods that we become complacent, especially with the older generation, right? And then you say, okay, universities, teach it to the students. Now universities, no budget, no this, lacking in facilities and so on and so forth. So even though that is a challenge, I think there is a challenge. Do we have, I don't know, do we have to follow what the West are doing? I say no. If we are comfortable with our rate, why not? Right? Why not? It is tak payah ikut sangat lah. Ataupun another way to overcome that kind of a challenge, not ready, panic, panic because everybody is doing what we are not doing. Okay. I think a good way is to outsource it, right? For example, if we have a small practice, they are using virtual reality. We are not ready yet. We just outsource it. Outsource it to companies. They are mushrooming out there. Companies which are ready, which have the facilities, and we have the technology, the skill to do it. We can outsource it to them, right? So in other words, I, for one, will not be too panicky when everything is digital and I'm not. So be it. I hope that is a little bit. The other question is, why is it limited adoption of technology in the real construction world? Namely, we are not ready. The contractors are not ready. Still, they need the roles, the roles of people. They don't have yet the iPad. People are doing that. They're not ready yet. Simply as simple as that, not ready yet. When will they be ready? Soon. Okay. So, but when they are ready, the technology has evolved again. So they are not ready for the other kind of technology. It will never end. It will never end. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sharifah. To Dr. Nick. Dr. Nick, I would like to suggest the questions from Adanta again. So in the building industry within the Malaysia context, were cutting edge technology adopted? So I guess there's something that we should actually Dr. Sharifah answer. But if yes, how and to what extent? So I guess that is actually we are not ready yet. But I would like to ask the questions to Dr. Nick. So what do you think on the limitations of adoption of technology? So from your points of view, especially in the from the points of the architecture education, why is this impossible kind of things? And then what is the best way for us to start looking into how we can get the society and community in the industry to actually adopt this kind of technology. So whether it is possible for us to lead the society into that kind of adoptions. Thank you, Dr. Nick, please. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ahmad. Okay, I'll go to Andrea's second question, which is about the adoption of these technologies in Malaysia. And I think it's clear we have not adopted significantly, you see. and there are challenges in that aspect that I have sort of highlighted in my slide. especially the final slide, which is actually about the awareness. That is one thing that there have been survey, like what I mentioned during my presentation just now. There have been a survey on architecture firms, on the adoption of BIM and also the awareness of BIM and the results from the few papers that have gone through. It seems that it's not really encouraging. We are still at a very low adoption of this technology, and in order to overcome it, I think the first stage is for us to give this awareness, maybe through education to the architecture student. And I think we should also have the right tools in order to have them, to get them familiar with all these accessories of BIM. And like what I mentioned before, we already have a fraction of it, like SketchUp and AutoCAD, Revit, but we still didn't possess the a more holistic program of BIM, and that is also an issue. We also need people with knowledge to train the student, and hopefully that one day when the student graduated and work in a firm, they might be able to introduce these technologies to the field. So going back to the first question, I think I would agree with what Prof. Hamdan mentioned about the three challenges, which is in the construction industry, especially, but in architecture. There are challenges in communication, management, and quality of the product, of the building that we created. And of course, all these three challenges can actually be resolved, I would say, by this cutting-edge technology. And also there are challenges of getting this across to the field. And even during in the university, like we don't have the tools. we really don't have the enough tools to train our students towards embracing this digital technologies more holistically. I hope that answers what Andrea asked.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Nick An. So I hope the panelists has actually give us a lot of ideas and actually respond to the questions. I believe so. No, because I guess when we come to changing, bringing the whole nations into a changing society, so we will have to collaborate to do the right communications, and we really have to convey the message. So it has to go smoothly and slowly. So, but I guess the students will be the ambassador, and later on so become the people who will change the whole platforms or move into a different paradigms of the industry, especially the built environment. So thank you very much for the answer. I hope Anne is okay with that. So I think the question comes from Rahman. So he said, Assalamualaikum, although the technology in architecture is at the forefront, yet at the construction stage, most of the practices are conventional. Why is this happen? I guess these questions, some of the answer has already given based on architect's question. So, but maybe I can actually get Dr. Sharifah. Would you want to answer this one first? We talk about the construction industry, because I think the contractors maybe they are not ready, or maybe what is the perspective from Dr. Sharifah then?
Yeah, because okay, not really practicing, okay, academic full time, but again, technology when it is applied, okay, I believe lah, technology is not that easy, when you want to study BIM, for example, it is not very simple as to draw. No, it has got a lot of systems, a lot of connections with other civil engineering mechanics. It is not easy. It takes time to master the technology. So that is why I was thinking, what is our role? Is our role to be designers, okay? Or do we don't have time really to master the technology, know how to use it the optimum way so that it be efficient as it is designed for. So that is why I feel that you give it to the consultant, outsource it. Because if we want to master in BIM, for example, might as well get a degree in BIM, masters in BIM, and do a PhD in BIM. Okay, so where's the design? Where's the architecture, right? So that is why I think because it takes time to master, that is why it does not really happen in construction. No, most of us on site probably don't know deep enough. That is what I think. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Sharifah. Actually, like what Dr. Nick actually mentioned just now, actually, I'm actually really pushing through the BIM, the BIM itself. So actually, I guess actually the college community and the polytechnics is actually doing well. So they're actually promoting the BIM very actively. So they even actually has they actually sort of like they even actually have already produced a very good modular for the BIM. So something which actually we can learn from them. I think in the higher education, so when we talk about the university itself, there are still a lot to be actually conveyed to the students, especially in the built environment education, the engineering, and so on and so forth. But I guess the construction industry, the promotion has been there, so I think it's time, like one of the participants say, why are we scared to move on or adopt technology? So I guess this is something that which actually a lot of us as academicians and also people who are in the industry, teaching and learning, so it's time for us to move forward to see how people can adapt to that technology, especially in the BIM itself. Because I see that Dr. Nick mentioned talk a lot on the BIM. So maybe Dr. Nick, you want to convey some message, and then how can we promote the applications of BIM in the construction industry? Dr. Nick?
How we can promote? I think that it's have to be first. I think started with the awareness amongst the professionals. So they need to be aware of the importance of BIM, and because especially those in the AEC professionals, because they have to collaborate. So we need to get them to agree to use BIM. That's the first thing. And of course, there is a cost implication, like what I told you, whether they can afford to have a whole system, the whole program in order to get started. And also there is a need for people in the firm itself to be able to operate the system. So like what Dr. Sharifah mentioned, that we are so busy designing. Now who should actually learn about BIM? I know that there are overseas, there are firms that actually hire specialists in BIM. And I think maybe that is a module that we might try to introduce in Malaysia. Maybe we need that specialist to give it a first start, to the firm, the process of BIM. Otherwise, it would be very hard to have, the ready staff, the ready available staff to have it, to get it started. Yeah. We even have at the school, we even have the difficulties of getting the right people in order to train about BIM, because we don't have the right lecturers who have specialization in BIM. That is also an issue. And I think if there is any PhD candidates who have really mastered the skills of BIM, we would like to invite them to apply to our university. Maybe one day we can teach BIM at our school.
Yeah, and thank you, Dr. Nick. Thank you. I guess it could be like, I think before we reach out to them, to the contractors, I think we have the CIDB. CIDB is actually working very hard to promote BIM. So I guess some of the authorities is actually very, very much into the BIM itself. So maybe these questions I will go to Prof. Hamdan, because we talk about authorities. So because I know that I'm not mistaken, ISI are the Iskandar developments has actually made mandatory for all the projects to be actually into the BIM promoting so that we can give the submissions has to be in BIM and so on and so forth. Maybe Prof Hamdan can actually also comment on how we can actually promote technology into to the contractors and how we can make it like mandatory kind of thing. So maybe Prof Hamdan, you want to comment about it? Thank you very much.
Okay, very interesting question, and I think very pertinent. We respect to enforcement, with respect to directive, right? But at the same time, why make the directive when the whole nation is not ready? Is that going to have a negative impact to the whole industry? It is, because sometimes people who make policy are not on the ground, right? For example, why do I make ODOS? ODOS is actually open door system for the poor. It is an IBS system, but the failure of IBS in this country that we're trying to enforce is that it is actually a closed system. IJM has its own, Gamuda has its own. They don't talk. They become more expensive. They require a lot of units in order to make it very economical. So I came to KPT and said, I can make a house out of a door. A door is a modular system. A door can be buy from, you can buy from any hardware store. I say, Hamdan, prove me, give me the money. So I proved them. But my problem now is to commercialize the house of doors, because the 3-bedroom that I built as an experimental house require 67 doors. And a lot of people say, wow, you had 67 doors. I say, yes, because my doors is a wall, my doors is a window, my doors is a doors. And my doors also make the rooms. And I can just open any doors and get out of the house anytime. So, so I'm trying to challenge the idea that if you enforce something that is actually not ready, this is what we are seeing on the ground, right? And at the same time, it is not fair to all. It's only belong to certain people who actually can acquire the technology. So were you happy to see the whole Iskandar Malaysia is actually built by this group? I'm sure you are not. So this is where when we create policy, it has to be balanced. It has to have all these socio-economical impetus and objective within the policy, because it involves a lot of stakeholders, involves a lot of interested parties in our policy. So, and if I look at the question in detail, basically it's about, you do things virtually, and then on the site, on the construction site, it is actually physical. So where is this gaps? The gap is, one, the technology is actually done virtually somewhere. It has to be physically built. So who is doing this? The human. The human is the one that is actually making the virtual, and at the same time will have to make it physical. Now, where is the gap? The gap is from the virtual to the physical. Any graduate inside this room, digital room, of course, wanted to be in the construction sites so that you have the ability and knowledge to actually build it, or we leave it to our foreign laborers or people who are unskilled to do it on the site. So when we say the construction stage, most of the practices are conventional, that's because we have not moved. We are still brick, a construction. Even my door house is all doors, 67 doors that make up the whole thing, including toilet. No, everyone look at it and say, no one has done this before. I said, yeah, because no one has done it before, because you have not seen 67 doors make up a house. So you always wanted to have a brick house, and then you complain about thermal quality, all those things. So basically, we don't dare to move out from our comfort zone. That's why it is still conventional. That's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Hamdan. I wish I can actually open up the box and jump out of the box now. So pretty much the dollhouse is actually innovative and creativity. So bravo for that, Prof. Hamdan. So it's a modular system. Now to students and participants here, we talk about modular. So and then CIDBs, our country's the constructions industry development board has actually talking about the modular system. So Prof. Hamdan has do it with the dolls. So 67, so I'm yet to count where is all the dolls will be. I'm going to look for that, Prof. Hamdan. So of course, we talk about the balance of the way forward in the built environment and the construction industry. I believe these are the topics still be continuously discussed. So I hope Rahman, I think Rahman, right? So you asked a question. So I hope those are being answered. So especially when now that we talk about the creativities of the dollhouse, so there's a question talking about how technology has influenced the architecture in general. So because Dr. Sharifah said that, have we actually lost our creativity? So then Prof. Hamdan said, look at that. The modulars, even a doll can actually boost your creativities into innovation. So maybe I'll get Dr. Nick to answer this one. How can technology influence architecture in general? So, and then for the creativity and the innovation itself, Dr. Nick.
Okay, thank you. So, how the technology can influence the creativity in architecture? I think it's through the various point of view that you can obtain from the technology, because the one that I have reviewed, like the virtual reality, augmented reality, and also the other digital technology could actually allow us to scrutinize the design even during the schematic up to the construction process. So meaning that if there should be any issues or shortcomings, we can actually rectify it. So, but I would agree with Dr. Sharifah in terms of you still need to get to the paper to try the design, because at the early stage, I think that is very essential for architecture students to explore, because you can do something that is beyond. It's difficult for me to express what is that, because I think only architect who did sketches, a lot of sketches in order to appreciate the quality of the space, and I think those are actually the thing that might be lacking and something that cannot be replaced in this using that digital technology. When we see the student who come up with 3D projection of their projects, we always find faults in terms of the quality of space, for example, which I would say that those candidate or student with a better flair in the manual skills have a better grasp of the quality. And I think that there is something that maybe in terms of the shortcoming of technology, but we also recognize that there are ample potentials in this virtual digital technologies as well, like what I mentioned before. So it's about counterbalance between these two mode of approach, meaning that the manual and also the digital. I think that's very important. We must not abandon the manual just because we have the tool. Anyway, it's just a tool for us to make a better design in architecture. So that's the important point. I think the counterbalance in between, we have to use both.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Nick. So, Prof. Hamdan actually talk about the approach in the construction industry, the balance of the way forwards, and then Dr. Nick now put the balance in the tools and also our mind. Very interesting. So so in the influence of these digital technology, it's actually a balance in how we actually use the tools and also the thinking and the technology. So Dr. Sharifah actually did mention about that also. So the technology shouldn't actually sort of like bury the creativity of us, and then shouldn't be actually sort of stopping us into the innovation itself. Very interesting. So I guess I will have to actually stop the Q&A sessions now. So I would like to lead the panels to actually talk about to discuss about our main topics of the main topics here. So because we actually wanted to actually talk about the global issue, the digital global issues into the IR 4.0, and how the school of architectures, especially teaching and learning, have influence on that, and especially on the professional practice. So this is actually the sessions which actually we would like to actually have more opinions and perspective from the panel themselves, talking about this, because to me, in the global issue of digitals, things actually, when we were actually in the early 2017, 2018, we are talking about, Malaysia is moving to IR 4.0. The Mohd has actually come up with the strategy plannings into talking about MyHE, the 4.0, how our education platform should change into adopting 4.0, so now talking about digital technologies. So how shall we actually prepare our students into a lot of skills? We talk about 11 domains of skills, not only the technology, not only a lot of hands-on psychomotors and thinkings and so on and so forth. So the digital issues, which actually open our eyes when suddenly 2019, the pandemic comes to strike us. So, and then the COVID-19 make us have no choice, but we actually have to really use the digital technology, so which actually give us an advancement into really follow through the industrial revolutions of 4.0. So, and then how have these actually affect the 4 Asians School of Architecture, especially on the teaching and learning, and how have these affect the professional practice? I myself actually do practice sometimes. So, but more into the academics, but I guess it actually affect a lot. So we do have some architects in these participants. I guess they can actually involve in some of the question and answer if you want to. So I would like to open up these sessions for Prof Hamdan to actually really discuss the whole picture of these global issues of the digitals and IR 4.0 and the effects on the whole School of Architecture in the Asian regions, and then how it's actually have changed the whole paradigm of our architectures and also the built environment platform. So I will start with Prof Hamdan dulu. Thank you very much.
Okay, very lengthy question. Maybe it's very difficult to elaborate within a very short times, but I personally work from a very basic, fundamental, low-lying fruit principles. Yeah. Even when we talk about technology, we are talking about technology means that what? Even if you use the word cutting-edge technology, what do you mean cutting-edge technology? Technology is something that available to you during your time. That's technology, because it can be meaningful, beneficial for the society during that time for that particular place. All right. So the problems that we are addressing here is that something that not within us. So do we need to acquire them? So when we say yes, then need will come say to the Besar office, I need the money, right? But then when you buy, who is teaching? Who is using? Is it optimized? And believe me, when I become the Deputy Vice Chancellor Development, one of my objectives is that no waste. No waste money, no waste in spaces. It is all about optimization of use. And when we actually discuss something that not within our grasp, then we shouldn't be talking, because at the end of the day, you are only talking. So what we need to do is actually to look back and understand what is technology to our context. Yeah. So if I'm talking about UTM Skudai, I'm talking about Unimas, I'm talking about UKM, why are you trying to get into, digital technology that you are not ready yourself, right? So this is where, if you remember my slide, we have this nicely done two-part of, education or curriculum in our in our country called Part 1 and Part 2. We have not debated what is Part 1. We have not debated what is Part 2. We have yet to debate why we need Part 3. Going forward, going to the future, right? I mean, I'm not saying you don't have to have Part 3, but what is the Part 3 of architecture industry? Are you talking about practicing, or are you talking about innovating and still consider the guy is actually the Part 3? I mean, after going through skill, after going through research, and then he developed something, and that something is still architecture. It's just that they don't have to put their signature, right? So who developed 3D printers that can actually print the whole house, right? Can you actually do that within a semester? I don't think so. Now, if I am the holder of the profession called architecture, would I just sit down and say, Part 1 is this, Part 2 is this, Part 3 is this? Or would I now start looking who should lead? And they are part of me. So if you're talking about Part 1 is something that we must regulate them so that you have the skill. So now, Part 2 is supposed to be good thinkers, designally based on things. There is a fact that you must do. You have to have this analysis. So what are they as a graduate? Okay, they can be given Part 2, but at the same time, you have these wonder boys who within 2 years fulfill everything, but he just do one thing, and he created the 3D printers for the whole nation, affordable, can be done in Sarawak, in Sabah. You can brought to the remote places and build the house. So what are these people? They have to be appreciated. Now, if you start doing that, I think our profession become the most beautiful profession, that you don't start dividing because of the certificate. You have to look them because of their contribution. So this is where we have to actually relook at ourselves, the whole nation, but do not just keep chasing like Prof. Sharifah was mentioning. Because technology is always dynamic and actually moving forward, right? Well, they come back as called trend, or what do you call it, post, things like that. But at the end of the day, it's like fashion. They do come back, but it's more of style. But the technology probably will move further. And you can actually click a button here, maybe they print somewhere in Sarawak, right? But at the end of the day, it is how we see these things, that we are not making it a requirement until we have enough people to make it as such, something that we make it compulsory. So that's why when I visited a lot of architecture school, it is sad because I see the same thing happening in so many schools. Yeah. They have this philosophy, suddenly it become conventional, right? So how come they actually make a philosophy which is very well written? It took them maybe one whole semester sitting down together to come up with the philosophy of the school, the vision, the mission, the objective. And when I come and visit, it is the old UTM. It is the old USM. You know, I'm not sure about Unimas, but where is this the driving force that actually create this, you know, transformative change, evolution in architecture that is actually embedded to our context, yeah? And technology is one of those that will actually either, you know, assist or actually create this new innovation. But it cannot be done within the normal setup. Okay, if I have a student, so like Nick said, if you want to do PhD, come here to do PhD in BIM. I don't care whatever they want to do. Say for example, you look at Rahina's student from UPM, you know, just to look at those filter or storage system, yeah, for seafront community or settlements, you know. So he actually helped the whole villages and also the whole environment. Are they not be called architecture of change or architect for change? So that's my question. But at the end of the day, that should be the answer. I mean, we have to look at architecture from different perspectives, and everyone is actually contributing. Yeah, and digital technology still to me a tool. Okay, because we are still human.
Yeah.
And we
Thank you, Prof. Hamdan.
We used it for the human. And I think don't be afraid if we don't yet have the most advanced technology. Get the most appropriate technology. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you very much. You know, I do have another question, so pretty much from the floor, and also pretty much has been going around in my mind, because since Prof, you are in the top management of a university, so maybe you can actually share with us what are the good strategies that may actually sort of like looking to embrace technology into the education systems, for instance, especially for the architecture education. So like for the academicians and also for the professionals. So what are the good strategies that you if you can, you would like to talk to the policymakers on the way forward of the architecture educations in the digital era?
Okay. Wow. Okay, I think it is very important for us to actually to understand how do we teach architecture. Yeah? How do students learn about architecture? Teaching and learning has to be both ways. So architecture, some people say a subjective matter that need to be taught romantically, means that a very intimate subject. That's why our ratio is very small, 1 to 15 for undergraduate, 1 to 10 for postgraduate, and it become one of the most expensive programs that we can offer because it's that intimate, it's that closeness that we require. But during this pandemic times, those closeness are now becoming so distant. Right? But we have to. So there is a lot of innovation going on in teaching or learning about architecture between the lecturers and the student, using so many platforms. I have a friend of mine using Facebooks, WhatsApps, anything that they can, because they need to reach those students. So if you talk about only one platform, forget it, because it is not reaching everyone. So it is very interesting to actually engage digital technology within this pandemic times, but at the same time you also has to be realistic. We like it or not, will move from pandemic to endemic time. where we just have to accept it, right? So when that will happen, will have to be decided. But for example, I believe in UTM, we have came up with a lot of alternative to actually reach out to all the students. Yeah, we even think at possibility of even giving things for free, so that the student has to stay in their villages or at homes and do not come to the campus. Yeah, but is that the solution? There are a lot of stories about how the remote student will have to climb up higher ground in order to receive internet connection and things like that. But as I said earlier, I work simple. Always think simple. If they are so difficult to reach the internet at their location, bring them to the campus. The solution is so easy. It's inexpensive. It works wonders. And why the SOP? I mean, SOP, you still have PDRM, approving you to cross the district, for example. Do that and help this student and bring them to the campus so that they have the internet connection, even though they don't actually see their lecturers still working from home. But at the end of the day, you can reach them now because they are in the internet connected region, right? Don't believe SACOM because they say it's all their region, but it's not. The fact is that we have given like 4,000 SIM card for free. Only 1,000 something took the SIM card. So means that what? Everyone has the technology, right? We thought that we will cover a lot of people by making offer SIM card for free that has certain speed and coverage, but not even half being taken up by our students. So it means that like Sharifah said, the technology is in their hands. It's all about the infrastructure, the internet connection, the Wi-Fi line. Those are the things that, in my position, it is actually I'm looking at. How to actually improve this connectivity. The rest I leave it to the lecturers in the studio to make the learning happen. I said learning. It's not teaching. It's learning. Yeah, because remember when we create student, are we actually creating the design? Or by creating the design, we're actually teaching or making the student learn? Are you making the design more beautiful or making the student understand how to design beautiful design? So that is very important. So if you can do that, being physical, bring them back. If you think you can do that on the digital platform, continue. And I think we have to give this flexibility. Some institutions are ready with digital learning platform. Some do not. So bring them back into the campus. And I always believe that a campus like UTM, which have 20,000 population at one time, is a small city, even a parliamentary cities. Means that there are only 20 voters, right? And we bring them to the parliament. And that's what my campus is. So if we can handle a city, why can't we handle a campus? Right? So that's my answer and also hanging question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Hamdan. So everybody, so please accept the Prof. Hamdan punya questions, and then you guys will have to answer to yourself on that. So thank you very much. I guess Prof. Hamdan said, "Oh, bring the students back, inshallah." So we pray that hopefully the students will be back, will be able to come back, in the next semester. So we ask how I wish everybody will be back in the campus, and how I wish I should go back to also where we can actually collaborate together and see face to face. very interesting. Prof Hamdan shared that actually a small city, a village, and also the whole country itself. So it's actually on the infrastructure. So infrastructure itself, so we got adoptions of the technology. It is very interesting. So I would like to actually convey this message to Dr. Sharifah, because I believe with her expertise into connections to the international platforms, where she is actually in the RIBA, she's also in the AIA, she's also in the CABI, so something that she actually would like to very much to share with us, how infrastructure, how internet, how a smart cities can actually for us to think, and then pretty much how we can actually look into the technologies to see how we can improve and adapt the technology in this digital era. So, Dr. Sharifah, I'll pass it to you for your sharing. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Start sharing. Thank you again, Madam Chair. So I will share screen. I think I'm getting echoes already. Because usually when we are online for hours, we tend to get echoes. Okay. Okay, I would like to touch upon because one way to do research is via case studies, right? So we are also talking about cities in the ASEAN region, for example. So let me bring you to Songdo. Songdo is actually a smart city, okay, developed in Korea. And they use the Songdo Smart City as an icon, a city which is developed from scratch, from zero. Okay, so when you develop a smart city from zero, everything can be thought of, can be planned accordingly. Okay, so there they reclaim the land from the city, from the sea, and they built it. So we have architects and engineers coming in, how to make it construction using the most latest technology. And then you have the transportation system embedded, also the trains, the cars, the taxis. And then in the apartment, for example, you have all kind of smart system. For example, you have the smart tag, okay, you tag to go up, to security, to go up the lift. And when the way you communicate with your neighbors, you use the latest technology in communication and so on. So this is a smart city from scratch. So when the idea of this city came, the big name, the big name technology invested. For example, Amazon, Dell, Intel, Apple, everybody invested because they feel that that is the way to go. Have the smart city. Everybody will love it, right? But however, let us tell you, because with technology, it does not necessarily mean success. Okay, what you think will happen does not happen. So that is why when doing research, it is good that you study case studies, because they have a lot to learn. So let's take a look at Songdo. So this is Songdo. If you see here, let me point you my mouse. Hold on. Right, this is Songdo, South Korea, on reclaimed land. All the buildings are built according to the latest in construction. So because just another question is, why is it not happening in the real construction? Here it is happening. The architects are technically savvy. The contractors are also technological savvy. Everything is done very fast. And it built instant, almost like an instant, okay? They have a renewable energy, smart, green parks, and so on. So all at Songdo is the state-of-art, latest technology, cutting edge, like Prof Hamdan saying, everybody's saying cutting edge. So the ideal is, however, we must also not forget the human approach. Human beings. Why am I getting, okay, human beings, right? Where are the humans? Okay, is the smart city suitable for the tech savvy only, the rich, the one who can afford the handphone, the iPhone, the one who is literate about internet? What about those who are poor? What about those who can't even afford to eat? You know, because cities, as we know it, should have been populated by the rich, the medium, the poor, you know, working together and so on and so forth. So Songdo is looking like, you know, is it built for foreigners? What about the Korean culture? So what happened in Songdo, let me tell you. So this is Songdo again. You can see here the smart city platform. This is the technology, 5G, 4G, everything is interconnected with all state of the art. So this is the cloud. This is the cloud, okay? Oh, and I think okay. This is the cloud technology, the data center in Korea that provide the cloud service that you have in Songdo, okay? Sometimes we think that cloud technology is in the cloud, right? But it's not in the cloud. It is there somewhere in Songdo, right? The latest technology. Can you imagine? Okay, can you imagine what if a missile was fired to this data center? Destroyed completely. What happens? Okay, because this is the heart of all technology. This is what happens if we rely too much on technology. But what I want everybody of us to learn is that smart cities without humans will fail. Okay, so for example, this is the intelligent garbage intelligent garbage system at Songdo. Okay, from every apartment, okay, you will have this thing. You will throw your garbage there. It will be vacuum sucked into an underground tunnel, okay, underground tunnel into a centralized garbage where it will be burnt for biomass energy. So great, smart, right? So you will not have this, okay? You will not have this in Songdo Smart City where you can see the garbage, you can smell it, and you have dogs coming in and scavenging it. You don't have that in a smart city because the image of a smart city is clean and very, very systematic and so on. Wait. Okay. So, okay. So this is the clever rubbish system at Songdo. They have a centralized processing plant where the garbage through underground tunnels go here and be processed into renewable energy biomass. So what happens when Songdo was completed? I forgot already, maybe 2014, 2015. You can Google it. Problems do rise. Why? Because the Koreans don't want to live there. No, the government offer them go live in Songdo, make it alive. No, we don't want to live there. So the people are saying, the Koreans are saying, why? What's wrong with us, human, doing the dirty, dangerous, difficult jobs, right? For example, the garbage. What's wrong with human being collecting the garbage? What's wrong with us driving the buses and the trams? Okay, what about having us, having us to clean the windows of the high rise? Those are the difficult jobs. Okay, why have robots? Why have automatic systems, intelligent systems to do it? Where's our jobs, right? Because the culture of the people, they like to do the job, titik peluh, okay, bekerja untuk dapat gaji. So they would rather sweat it out rather than looking at computer system and looking at the system there, beep, everything's beep. So that is what happened. The Koreans don't want to live there. At the end of the day, you look here, the 39 billion high-tech smart city in South Korea turns like a Chernobyl-like ghost town after investment dries up. They don't want to invest anymore because it is not a success. It fails. They don't want to live there. There was one interview, okay? They're saying that I don't know my neighbors. I hardly see my neighbors. At the tip of 7:30, he or she shoots off. walks off to the train, get the train, because if he or she were late, the train will be missed, right? They don't see that their neighbors, there is no chatting, backbiting, giving your neighbors cakes. You know, everybody is living like in autonomous, automatic city. Okay, there is, so it is technology, to me, technology that maybe not fitting the purpose. So we need really to study social and cultural implications, because when every other country in the world, for example, want to do smart city, Malaysia also want to do smart city. Cyberjaya, Putrajaya, and the latest is Iskandar city. Yeah, but please, we have to study what happened to the cities before, and whether or not we want to follow or we want to tweak it. We deviate it from the norm and suit it to our own culture. For example, if let's say Cyberjaya, of course, everybody have been to Cyberjaya. When you go to Cyberjaya, you get a feeling of, oh, it's a high-end, classy, okay, little bit, maybe we feel that it's for the rich, okay? So does it mean that in Cyberjaya we cannot have pasar malam, for example, where the everybody is selling goods at the near the longkang and, you know, things like that, which are our culture. We grew up with it. Of course we can. But then the people, the politician will say, no pasar malam in Cyberjaya because the image will spoil for international audience. Okay, so we don't want to have people dictating to us how our smart city should be like, because we have to make smart cities which are technological, but ones that also suit our culture, our religious background, you know, our you know, of course, in our country, Malaysia, we are still, not everybody have the handphone. In Singapore, okay, the in Singapore, one citizen has got 3. I repeat, where's my, there. One citizen of Singapore has got 3 smartphones. 3. So they can afford it. They can afford it because even the old are literate to use the intelligence system. But we are still far behind, okay? So that is why when we believe that, yes, technology is the way to go, look again, think about the people, think about the social, cultural implications, because if it fails, the smart city defeats the purpose of having people live in there. Okay, that is, I think, for the cities. That is also to add to Prof. Hamdan, because we are not ready. We in many things, in many instances, we are not ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sharifah. Thank you. So, you know, technology is actually good. Technology allows us to actually learn online, meeting online, but technology cannot replace us as a human. So, you know, artificial interaction is actually what we as a human created. So, but so much so, and then we talk about our culture, our diverse culture, values, and ethnic, and all those things. So when we talk about the cutting edge technology, we talk about the forwards of the digital technology, the issues and everything. I think we will not be able to bring away the social cultural issues to be included in the advancement of the technology. So these are the things that actually for us to think about and then for us to consider. So so we know that technology can never replace us as a humans. So this kind of things actually need more to discuss, more to do research, and need people to open our eyes. Recently, the healthcare system also tell us that, look, there is actually technology, but we still need to actually look into the social cultural backgrounds of our nation or our country. I think this is actually happening in the whole Asian region. So, but still, you know, coming back to these digital issues and things like that. So we will still have to actually follow through, because there is a needs, like Dr. Sharifah said, although we are not ready, but we still need the technology. Like Prof. Hamdan said, yes, we can look into technology use at what it's fit for the purpose. So there's a question that which actually related to what I want to lead the panelists to discuss is actually the the technologies for the smart cities, which actually Dr. Sharifah talked about. So it may actually harm us if we actually don't do it right. So someone was actually asking the questions, on the BIM technology itself. So whether it's actually too early to actually introduce in the school, and then how do we want to make them aware how BIM is actually can be utilized in the construction technology, how we can actually make it to fit for the purpose, how we can actually maybe in the future we can develop into creating that kind of smart city, but not going to kill the whole ambience of the built environment, so not to create the ghost town. These days, many countries in the Europe or even Japan. So Japan is actually offering like 100, if I'm not mistaken, 100 yen, 10 yen for one village in one village house, in a remote area or something like that. So I guess the BIM itself is actually a different dimensions of technology, which actually will be used in the construction technology. So these questions will go to Dr. Nick. So I would like Dr. Nick to share with us, because he actually mentioning about BIM in the application of teaching and learning, also application in the building industry. So how early we should actually introduce, or we are too late to actually introduce, and how BIM has actually affected the students' creativity. So this is actually a question from one Doris in the participants. But what is important here is actually for Dr. Nick, we would like to know your opinions. So especially on the technology teaching and learnings, especially for hands-on kind of technology subjects in the whole architecture educations. Thank you, Dr. Nick, to you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Prof. Ahmad. That question actually, first of all, I think BIM and smart cities might be two different entities because smart city might or might not be constructed using BIM. I think BIM is actually a collaborative tool for AEC professionals. And in terms of how soon should we start with BIM, I think it's about time, I would say. The only difficulties that we face today in our schools is mostly about the provision, the availability of the tool, and also expertise amongst our academicians to train our students in BIM. So we might not have that in our syllabus yet. We do have CAD program, which use some components of BIM softwares, but we still don't have the whole system in order to teach our students. So I think it's never too late or too early to introduce BIM. I think it will, if it's really important in the construction industry, it will make its way to university and also to practices in Malaysia. I think in time, in suitable time, I would say. So basically, we have to make sure, I mean, on the what we can do as academicians is actually to be aware of this and to prepare whatever we can, maybe in terms of staffing and provision of facilities at our institution. We need to keep it up to date. We need to acquire the right, I mean, the proper software suitable for its time, I would say. And I would like to give an analogy, for example, I mean, on how digital technology can affect the profession. I have one colleague, I mean, he studied with me, graduated, then get his job in one of the architecture firm. That happened in the 90s, actually. So most of the practice still hire illustrators in a firm to produce 3D drawing They normally painted it. But this colleague of mine, he actually have a skill to do ArchiCAD, to produce the 3D images of building, internal, external. He can produce fly-throughs, and finally, the firm actually bought the software because they can dispense with illustrators. They can cut costs because they have this graduate architect who can produce what illustrator can do with extra costs. So that's how I think the digital technology might affect the practice in terms of cost, time saving, smoothness of the the project management, and I think that it will make its way, because technology, architecture has been always in touch with technology. I think that we cannot stop it from happening. So it's only that it's a matter of time for us to see a further development in BIM and also in other digital technologies in our school and also practice. Does that answer the question?
Thank you, Dr. Nick. I guess I guess these are the technologies, whether it's BIM, whether it's actually virtual reality kind of things, it's actually time. So it's really time, though it's actually maybe not too late, or maybe not too early, in the sense that we will actually pretty much is actually really in times to that. I guess our topics of discussions of the global digital issues on Asian School of Architecture is on the teaching and learning, but of course there's actually another perspective of it. We talk about professional practice. So if you have, there's a questions coming in, technology in education. If we look at how Zahadi has been designing, we look at how Karatava has been designing. So it's all technology that makes their building possible into that kind of design, that kind of edge kind of design, the kind of technology. We look at Zahadik's companies, how the airports of China and all those things. Those are made possible because of the technology. But in our countries, so we talk about professional practice, especially when we relate to the digital technology. So I think one of the things is actually on the budget itself, but another thing is we're talking about how our architects, in our countries actually adapt the kind of technology into the education, into the practice. So maybe these questions, if the participant may allow, I would like to actually ask these questions to our very own advisor, our forward advisor, to Prof. Julaihi Wahid. So he is also a practitioner in the industry. So I would like to actually Prof. Julaihi to give us the opinions into these discussions. So how actually the global digital issue has influence of the professional practice. Prof. Julaihi, can I convey this to you? And thank you very much. Yeah, please, Prof. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Prof. Akmal. Yes, after listening to all the three panels and as well as some of the questions that's been forwarded by all the participants, it is just at the moment in time, I examined one thesis by one student who came from Germany. Allow me to read the title of his thesis: Restructuring Information Management in Building Design and Construction Using BIM as a Platform. Throughout these writings, as he explained in the thesis, it is very much more on the management. It is not so much on how capable BIM can be implemented in the progress of design, as well as at the stage of initiating the ideas for the person to create something that is extraordinary. As mentioned, according to the thesis, German, they even in Germany itself, they try to focus using BIM. Unfortunately, it is more towards management, but the platform of other tools or software, SketchUp, yeah, ACAD, parametric design, they try to integrate that. But with respect to all these platforms, there are some weakness, and also the time sequence of the process. This is the gap that he mentioned here. With respect to Malaysia, yeah, if we go through the process of design itself, we still think in terms of manual. And then as an architect, we design, we create ideas, and then we pass to the assistant architect. The assistant architect insert it through by means of all the software, either using SketchUp, ACAD, yeah. Even parametric, we are not really explore parametric yet in Malaysia. And then as a result of that, the system is still very slow. And then the product is not to the expectation what we are looking for, you see. I hope Dr. Sharifah, Dr. Nick, and Prof. Hamdan also, I think, share the opinion with me. Back to BIM, I didn't see yet in Malaysia we really explore BIM, how to integrate the software of SketchUp, ACAD, and parametric, as well as the management. And then even the system of the contract that we implement, either we use BQ and conventional contract, it does not really tally with what we're expecting. Yeah, the EOT still happen, the extension of time still happen, variation order still happen. If we really think that this system is the best solution, there shouldn't be any variation order. There shouldn't be any extension of time, because the gap in terms of the variation order with the architect's instruction, yeah, AI, is so much. What's wrong here? Is it the architect's fault? Or is it the problems with the initial stage of the design? Or is it the process that is not really integrate well with the software and the system? This is what I experienced and what I saw in the industry. And then back to our anxious dream about IR 4.0, in all this era of IR 4.0. As I mentioned to Prof. Hamdan, we were brought up during the early stage of modernism. As what Dr. Sharifah mentioned, we are the product of the baby boom period. And all the changes, the history, the systematic process of progress in technology happen that we see as we are the recorded history of all this happening. But when we relate with what happened in Malaysia, some of the politicians, they are so anxious about IR 4.0. Do they really understand what is IR 4.0? What are the substance of IR 4.0? Although there are 9 pillars of IR 4.0, which of these pillars that are really implemented in Malaysia? Which of these pillars really embedded in the system of education by the university? Yeah, we are so much influenced by what's happening due to globalization. We are much being pushed by globalization and being immerse ourselves with the internationalization. But when we enter into the IR 4.0, the revolution that reached us, we ask ourselves, which revolution do we grasp? Is it economic? Is it technology? Is it social? Or none of the above? This is a big question for us, Malaysia, especially at the turmoil of the pandemic. We are at the verge of crisis. Yeah, at the verge of crisis, a political crisis, social crisis, economic crisis. And now we, the academician, yeah, the academics, we are trying to solve the problems. We are the center of everything. We try to crack our head how to solve this problem. And yet, in the end, the politician that, you academics, what did you do? What have you done? You see, this is the reality. This is the reality. Even if we practice today, you'll see at the city council, how many of the city council really implement e-submission? Who are the people in the city council really have the knowledge of this BEAM, this software implementations to check all this planning, building submissions? Are we ready? This is a good platform for us to realize and to recapitulate as an academics, and we look around us again. And I hope my comment is not too harsh, Prof. Akmal, Prof. Hamdan, Dr. Sharifah, and Lukman. I'm still worrying, you know, when the politician mentioning about IR 4.0, and then the industry, they are chasing the beam, and only Germany, they really go into beam. Even UAE, I don't see all those great technology really implemented when I was there in the last 2 years. Yeah, even as Prof. Hamdan mentioned, the pace of building construction, we are still using reinforced concrete with brick infill. And then we are talking about IBS, the competition, the politics, and the supply, and the transportation, and all those problems, systemic. Yeah, it does not end, and we are still looking, and there are so many lecturers doing research, trying to solve the problems, so and so, but we don't know. Is the research back to the chef, or is the research only to publish paper to get ranking for university, or is the research just remain a research? Thank you very much, Madam Prof. Moderator. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. Julaihi. Okay, something very interesting I want to share to you. There was a question asked by someone shared with me questions which actually being asked today, you know, in the newspaper somewhere. Let me find the question. So it's actually talking about, let me see. Okay, are we, kejap kat mana dia tu? Okay, so is higher education ministry focusing on quantity over quality? I think this is something which actually Prof. Julaihi asked the same question just now. But anyway, will technology actually influence us or not, whether it's IR 4.0? So we talk about AI, the CAD, the the construction technology, where we talk about now construction without man. So I don't know whether that is possible. So again, now the beam itself, and then of course, and then the virtual reality. There's so much in the revolution. So like what Prof. Julaihi said. So now that what we have to worry is actually when the pandemic is here today. No, I just share a message to my faculty, said, sad story always make me cry. What is today's cases is actually 8,000 over. So actually this is actually scary. So the revolutions of economics, the revolution of technology, or the social, so yes, something which everybody have to think. If we talk about 3 hours, we will never be able to discuss the whole digital global issue. We will not be able to talk about how shall the Asian school of architectures move forward. So how can we actually sort of utilize the digital technology to help us in the teaching and learnings online, because that is something that we need, and then especially for our professionals education, which we need hands-on kind of things. So when we go to the construction site, we cannot use technology because we really have to tell the contractor. So what happens if you dig up the soil? There's a big rocks there. Do we have to wait, I'll go back to the office, and then I'll do the digital things, and then I'll come back to you to the site. So these are some of the things that it's not possible. So human touch is still needed, when you come to professional practice in architecture. So pretty much a lot of things that we have to talk about when you come to this issue. So I guess the panelists have actually shared a lot of good perspective, and then their views into the digital sort of global issues, and then talk about how School of Architecture can improve by using the technology, and also to balance ourselves in the technology and human touch, when it comes to teaching and learning. So, and then we also talk about a little bit about professional practice here. So Prof. Julaihi actually mentioned about how many of them in the authorities actually have the touch of all this technology, when we were still advancing and moving forward. So I remember when I was practicing in Singapore, so it is Singapore's authority has already asked for digital submissions since 1994 when I was actually working in Singapore over the years, and then we talk about integrated kind of beam system. So it was already happening in 2001. So like what Dr. Sharifah said, because Singapore's 1% have 3 smartphones. So I guess this is something that which actually we just couldn't challenge, when kind of advancement of developed country, and we are a developing country. So there's so much more for us to learn from each other. So I guess this is a good platform for us from the university and also from the industry itself. I see that there are actually many of the practicing architects are in the participants. And then I saw also our colleagues from Indonesia are here also. So thank you very much for joining us. So we still have another 15 minutes to go about. So, and then if you would like to ask any questions, you can actually sort of raise your hand. So I will allow you to actually ask questions to the panelists before we actually end our session. It is actually 20 to 5. So we have the last 5 minutes. I have to hand it back to the host. So then you actually have about 10 to 15 minutes to ask questions in live. So maybe our counterparts, the Asif, Pak Febran, ada di dalam partisipan ini. Would you like to ask any questions to discuss about the Asian issues from the perspective of Indonesia?
Pak Febri.
Yeah, Pak Febri, you are in, right? I saw you in the participants. Thank you very much, Pak
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Would you like to ask any questions?
No.
Dr. Lisa, not Dr. Nolisa.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions? Thank you, Pak Febri. So any questions? Any from the floor, from the virtual room? If there is none, I have a question. So I would like to actually let's go these questions to who should I actually, let me see. Okay. we talk about virtual reality. So I think Dr. Nick was the one that actually talked about a lot on the virtual reality. So I would like to actually ask a question. Virtual reality is the outcome of the IoT, the Internet of Things kind of thing. So where it influences the design industry and construction field. So and then maybe to three of the panels or Dr. Nick, so how can virtual reality improve the design intention of an architect? So maybe even Dr. Sharifah, you can also answer. Maybe start with Dr. Nick first.
I try to answer, and I have to say that I'm not an expert in virtual reality, but I think it can offer views. The architect can easily, I would say, if that such technology can be made available, I think it will be a great advantage for architects to share your vision actually in design with other partners in construction. And because they can actually immerse in the design, they can sort of being present in it. So it's easy for architect to maybe communicate the design intents and also how good or how the functionality and the of the design. I mean, not only the functionality. I mean the ambience or maybe the room or the building, because it's something that is very immersive. I mean, it's just as entertaining as game, like Dr. Sharifah said. So if you have that tool in the hands of architect, I think it's a great tool for them to sell their design and also to communicate their vision in that design. So basically, that's my answer. Maybe Dr. Sharifah can add, answers of hers.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Dr. Nick. Virtual reality, of course, I too lack the experience. I only read about it and hear about it and listen to what other people are saying. Basically, when you wear the goggles and you have a bungalow that you want built, right? So you wear the goggles, you can go around and look, and you can even touch the walls, walk up the stairs, right? Sometimes when you are immersed in it, you can fall down because the stairs are not real steps, they are virtual steps, right? You can even fall down, you get headaches from being too much immersed in the technology and so on. But the thing is, uh, is it the same as the bungalow, real bungalow built up and you going inside, opening the door? It is not. I don't think it's not. I don't want to say tipu, okay? It can be misleading, what you see, just like the showcase, right? The showcase room, they always make it nice. But what you get is something which is not so nice. So I suppose it depends on the client also. Do you want this kind of experience or don't they want? And if they want this kind of experience, you as the architect in practice must increase your fees. It's going to cost more, right? The technology must come with a cost. Therefore, the minimum scale of fees need to be revised because technology is not cheap, right? You have to invest on the goggles, on the roto seat and everything. Okay, so I think that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sharifah. Maybe Prof. Hamdan, you want to talk about the virtual reality. So what do you feel about the virtual reality?
Okay, I do agree with Sharifah in the sense that it's virtual real. We call it virtual reality. Is virtual real? I don't think so. Wearing the goggle to be immersed is inhuman in a way, because I think if Nurakmal can actually describe to me as if I'm in the virtual reality immersed world, I will go with you because it's the most fundamental, it's the easiest to understand, and you can actually convince me rather than I have to wait for someone to pass me the goggle, sanitize the goggle, put it on my my head, and actually trying to experience and I'm still learning to use the Google, for example. So all this are we have the virtual reality studio, we have the Beam studio in Skodai. We become the southern satellite for all those things, but I'm part of these people who found, found this laboratory, for example, as a founder. But at the end of the day, sometimes you have to have just a simple solution. Why go for this so complicated technology? I don't understand human, but we are designing for human. And we try to impress by having all this, nonsense technology sometimes. I call it nonsense, but of course I'm wrong. But there are ways that it's so easy for you to convince people, and why go into this trouble? Why it is have to be so costly, and then the fees has to be jacking up, and yet no one come to you because you are expensive. I will go to Julaihi, for example, you just catch in front of me and say, yeah, done. So these are the socio-economic technological balance that we have to address, even in the School of Architecture. And I in a firm believer that there are certain things that is so objective that you must achieve, but there are so-called alternative that you may have, you may don't need it. So why bother? But what is important is that you show that you are the best of what you are doing. For example, why go to Bali? Right? Because of the way they actually retain, right, their cultural, their belief and their relationship with the environment. Of course, to book, you use your handphone, right? The technology is there to assist. The word is to assist. But when the technology is actually, trapping you in not having is not the way to do it, I think that's where human has lost control, over the technology. And I believe that that shouldn't happen. I still would like to be human. I still would like to use technology as human, not, being trapped in this technological domain. Yeah. So at the end of the day, like Nick was trying to say, is that there are digital technology that requires times. So why must you deal with it in education that has certain duration of time? So as academic administrator, as a dean, as the program director, whatever you call it nowadays, you really have to know what is the limitation and what is actually the best thing that you must bring into your curriculum and still meeting those standards. And at the same time, allow that flexibility to happen, right? So I have like, if I have people like Sharifah wanted to develop a whole city, I don't think she can do that in a semester or even in 1 year, so-called our thesis. I would give her 3 years. Even lecturer, given a grant, will ask for minimum 2 years to finish the job, So let alone the student. So this is where, virtual reality takes time to understand, and is really enhance the designed product, or it is just about experiencing the designed product? Which one? Right? So it is still a tool to experience, but the design has to be done by us, by you. So it will not let you go off with this design thinking. So design thinking needs to be taught first before you actually engage the technology to assist. So this is things that I always be a bit vocal about, because to me, it is not just about a cost, because if I agree to buy, I'll buy, for example. Yeah. When we actually have a meeting, say Nick is asking for 100,000, I will ask the besar, you have the 100,000? Yes. No, give to Nick now, because that will be deducted today. So that I chase Nick to buy. And that's how I work. If I don't have money, I say, even Nick, don't bring that to us today, because we will not entertain it, because we don't have the money. So don't dream about it. So that's how we should be looking at technology, because if you couldn't, then you can actually make it aware to the student, but maybe work with someone who has it. But at the end of the day, don't make it a compulsory thing within your curriculum, because I think it's going to be failed, just like Songdo. Yeah. So this is where you forget about your human factors. And when we talk about architecture, it is all about putting human in what we do, right? I always share with students where I design crocodile park, or if I design a place for orchids, orchid will not talk to you, crocodile will not talk to you, but you must be an orchid, you must be a crocodile to design a house for crocodile, right? you can say, okay, I pick a crocodile technology, because you need to know how crocodile jumps, or whether they're safe to the visitors, things like that. So this is where our site analysis will have to be much, much better than what we are doing now. I can see in the school architecture, site analysis is always a group work. And then when you
thank you.
Individual,
thank you very much, Prof. Hamdan.
Yeah,
thank you. So if you want to study about crocodile, come to Sarawak. Come to Sarawak. So you want to study about crocodile. So I guess thank you very much for all the guidance. I really love these sessions, and especially all the opinions and visions and perspective of the panel. Learned so much. I wish we can actually continue this session like the Chinese state, So there's there's never a no ending for an event, but we can still continue next time. So our session is almost up, so I have to actually return the session to the host and then the Department of Architecture. So thank you very much to Prof. Hamdan. Thank you very much to Dr. Sharifah. Thank you very much to Dr. Nick. So we wish to actually be able to see each other again. So then thank you, Prof. Julaihi, for all the sharings, and thank you everybody to all the participants into the session. So I hope I have actually get all the panels to answer all your questions, and not directly, indirectly. So, and then thank you very much. So I will ask for forgiveness if I should make any mistake over the moderation. So now I will have to return to Dr. Raja. So now I'm back to you. Thank you very much to all the panelists.